Hey guys, this is Courtney from Willow's Bloom, and I am super excited to chat with you today about the Libra Solar Eclipse that's happening on October 14th at 21 degrees of Libra. So eclipse season, this is always going to be a big deal, especially for those who have planets around 21 degrees of Libra, especially, or any of the cardinal signs like Aries, Cancer, or Capricorn. You will feel this the most. So let's go ahead and jump into what this eclipse is talking about. This is a Libra solar eclipse, which is a new moon in the sign of Libra, sun and moon together, along with Mercury as well. And it's with the South Node. So at the time of this eclipse, we are planting a seed for a new beginning, which is always what a new moon means, and in a significant way because it is an eclipse. But it's also involving the South Node, and the nodes are still in a square to Pluto. So there is something about letting go, loss, releasing, purging, and kind of moving on from a fated chapter that has probably been going on for a while. And this is especially going to be relevant around Libra topics. So in order for us to plant the seed and have this new path and have this new beginning in Libra topics, we first have to let something else go. And Libra topics tend to have to do with relationships primarily. It has to do with beauty and money and aesthetics. This is ruled by Venus, and we're going to get to that later. And Libra has a lot to do with harmony as well and balance within ourselves. And Libra tends to be a pretty indecisive sign. With the North Node being in Aries, we are being pushed to become clearer on who we are, where we're going, and what we want. And that tends to mean that we have our sights set on something and we're not thinking about, should I do this? Should I do that? Should I do this? Should I do that? And so Aries is assertive. It's decisive. It knows what it wants. And that is the energy that we're trying to be pushed into this year. That's the growth edge for us this year. So with this South Node being in Libra, there's something where we've been maybe teetering or indecisive about, or having our hands in too many pots, where we could start to feel like we are being blocked in some way, or we are being scattered, or we are feeling just like a lack of flow or scarcity. And this is especially true because the ruler of this eclipse, the ruler of Libra, is Venus, and Venus is in Virgo. So Venus is not the best in Virgo. It's also in an opposition with Saturn, which was actually exact on the 10th, so a few days before this eclipse. And it's funny because last night was the 10th and I'm a Virgo rising and I did not sleep at all. And I was like, why? I've been trying so hard to get on a better sleep schedule and I was just up the whole night. Regardless, sorry about that tangent. But that probably does paint a good story of the type of energy with Venus opposite Saturn. It's like we're trying something and we're trying to get better at something, especially because Venus in Virgo is a lot about refining things, improving things, and the health of things. And we're trying to do that, but there are certain things that we are kind of butting our heads up against with Saturn opposition. Sometimes we can feel like we have a creative block if we're trying to move something forward. Maybe we just don't know how to move it forward or what the solution is. We can kind of feel that something is there, but we're not quite sure. And Libra is an air sign. So this eclipse can help with that breakthrough and bring the clarity around that, what may have felt blocked a few days prior. And so there can be a lot of scarcity feeling with Venus opposite Saturn because we are kind of blocked, or there is maybe less flow of financial resources, or we're feeling maybe less supported, or we're just maybe feeling more anxious if this is in your chart in a prominent way. And so those things can all lead us to feeling kind of overwhelmed and maybe feeling like I don't really know the solutions, or I'm feeling this burnout energy and I need to do something. I need to change something. I need to break past this. And all of that is going to lead us with this eclipse to get off the fence, whatever it is that we're on the fence about. If it's a relationship, it's us deciding about the fate of that relationship. If it's, realizing what we want or need to do for money. It's making those decisions, or it could be something else entirely. And we'll go over what this will look like for all the rising and sun signs. But I think you guys might be able to start kind of relating this back to your life and your connections and your money, and start to ask yourself, is there something I need to just become clear on, and not stagnant on? That's something that I need to move forward with. And what about that do I need to let go of in order to be able to move forward? So we can't just keep adding on. We have to let go of something, even if that's a pattern in a relationship. So maybe, for example, you decide that someone in your life that you've been having difficulty with is not for you. And the South Node is about releasing that person, but also releasing the pattern associated with you meeting and being attracted to that type of person. So if there's something underlying that you could see in your past, maybe in your childhood or with other relationships or with friendships, if you can see patterns there, it's starting to recognize that. And this is really going hand in hand with the Taurus eclipse that's going to follow this one on October 28th. These are very much linked all together. They're very much telling the same kind of storyline and from different angles. And both of these eclipses are ruled by Venus, which is why, again, these are very much the same type of thing. So we're all going to have these deeper realizations, and that I think is really going to come, in the next eclipse, especially when it comes to our emotions and kind of what we need to practically do to make these changes in our lives. So this eclipse can kind of build up this like restless energy, because it's making a quincunx pretty much exactly to Uranus, and that, like, a quincunx is not a traditional aspect in astrology, because it's essentially an aspect that means that these planets are not seeing each other. They're not interacting with each other. They're not working in each other's favor. And in fact, they're so independent that they might not realize that they're adversely affecting one another. And so there's something about this eclipse where we want to make a decision. We want to move things forward. But with this quincunx to Uranus, it could make us feel like we're very restless, and we just want to kind of do it all right now. But the important thing about Libra energy is that it's not going to rush into anything. It's really going to carefully consider its options. It's going to weigh things out. It's going to need that time and that space to know what it wants to do. And this quincunx to Uranus could add some pressure of that buildup of energy, where it almost wants us to kind of like act out. But again, with the ruler of this eclipse opposite Saturn, we don't want to act out. We want to think long term. We want to be careful and considered. We want longevity and sustainability on our side. And that's something that we will again see in this next eclipse in Taurus, which has everything to do with sustainability. And so this is our time to have a discerning and critical eye, weigh all the sides, take our time, and make important decisions in our lives that will lead to more balance and more harmony in a sustainable way. And so if this means that you've been making money in a way that doesn't align with where you're meant to go as a soul, that could come up. If you have certain relationships in your life that don't align with where you're trying to go as a soul, then that could come up. And it's really questioning, like, what do I need to do in these areas of my life to no longer feel this strain, to no longer feel this burden, to bring greater peace, to bring greater harmony. And in the long term, again, in the long term, if a relationship has affected your independence, self-respect, or confidence, it will definitely be questioned, especially again with the North Node in Aries. Even though this is a new moon eclipse in Libra, solar eclipse in Libra, we are supposed to embody Libra energy in some capacity. But with the North Node in Aries, like, we are needing to balance this out with a positive energy of Aries. If not, we can go too much into the excess of Libra and just thinking about not wanting to have trouble with people and not wanting to hurt people's feelings, and considering every side and every angle so much that it's hard to make a decision and move forward. With this North Node in Aries, it's very clear. Do I feel good about myself? Do I feel like I can pursue the things that I want to pursue within this parameter, within this relationship? Do I feel respected? And if the answers to that is no, then this Libra eclipse is really going to, I think, exacerbate some of those things. And end in the demise of a relationship like that. But the good news is that this is a new moon. So it is going to draw in connections that are much more aligned and much more supportive and taking into account this Aries energy. So if you are not resisting it, if you are understanding the calling here, if you are listening to your intuition and to the energy that the gods are providing or the universe is providing, then you will understand the transformation that's trying to happen in these areas of your life. And you will find that, especially in like 6 months from now, which is how long this eclipse takes to really unfold, you'll find that you attract the right people into your life that can fill the void of the people that left, and will be much better for your independence, your confidence, and your self-respect. If the relationships are not ending in your life, or if there isn't something in regards to your self-worth, your self-value that is ending or your money, then it's most likely transforming. So it doesn't have to just go away. It's got to just change. And the South Node likes to lessen the patterns and embrace something new decisions, new ways of thinking about things that essentially rewire your brain and help you get out of these cycles where you feel stuck, or where you feel like you keep reaching an impasse, or where you're unable to make a decision and you're suffering. It's a cycle of suffering. This is about breaking you out of that, coming into more of a mindset for what is best for me long term, what feels abundant, what feels harmonious, what feels supportive, what feels loving, what feels peaceful, and all the other things that feel unsupportive or scarce or negative. How do I cut those away? How do I transform them? So as a Libra eclipse, we're coming into greater emotional awareness, diplomacy. That's a really big one. We don't want to move entirely into the North Node. We don't want to move entirely into the South Node. We want a balance. So we want to be decisive, but diplomatic. We don't want to undercut ourselves or undersell ourselves, but we also want to be confident and full of ourselves in a healthy, positive way. And so again, balance, loving ourselves, being connected to our intuition, all these things that are going to come during this eclipse. And I guess the last point I'll try to make is that Mars is in Scorpio at the time of this eclipse, and it's trining Saturn. So the deeper that we can go into our decision-making process, Mars is a lot about our action, our drive, our assertiveness, and it's, again, the planet in charge of the North Node in Aries. So we're meant to embody this Mars energy, and we're meant to be, again, decisive, but we're doing it from a place of focus, of self-awareness, and of intensity and passion. So we're not, we don't want to be overly diplomatic. We don't want to be considering everything to the point where we never actually cut things away and just focus on one thing. This Mars in Scorpio has that intensity of tunnel vision, and it's trying to give us the opportunity to really understand our own kind of pathology and our own psychological issues, and why we maybe have gone into certain patterns in the past, and how we can make different choices now that are much more respectful of our long-term future selves and our desires. And that's why this Mars in Scorpio trines Saturn, because it wants us to really respect the time and the energy that we put into things and what that means for us long term. It's also squaring Pluto, so it is confronting to see some of these patterns. It is confronting to have this level of self-awareness. It could trigger fears. It could trigger our desire to control things, or just make us feel a little bit more like in survival mode at certain periods of time. Mars square Pluto is very driven to success, but it can also be challenged by its own, fears. And that is part of what we're overcoming. And this is really going to come out in the next eclipse, in the Taurus eclipse. But I think we're getting a preview of some of that emotional energy now, with the fact that Mars, again, the ruler of the North Node, is in a water sign that is concerned with depth, that is concerned with shadows, and wants us to make a decision out of truth and inner authority within ourselves. So Let's go ahead and dive into what this is going to look like for all the sun and rising signs. Make sure that you guys hit subscribe, give me a thumbs up if you haven't already, and comment down below if any of this resonates with you or your favorite moments, because that really means the world to me. And if you guys have any video suggestions, I am curious and kind of thinking about making more content, especially related to my coaching and how that overlaps with astrology. So if you're interested in anything like that or anything else, just let me know down below and let's go ahead and dive in. Okay, I forgot one more detail about this eclipse. I mentioned that it's conjunct Mercury, and I did not say that Mercury is exactly opposite Chiron. So typically with something like this, we will be confronted sometimes with triggering experiences or conversations that bring up memories from the past. And so a lot around this decision with the eclipse, like making forward momentum, committing to something, getting clear about something, and improving our relationships, our self-worth, and our money will come from having to face some either difficult or painful thoughts or conversations or realizations or even news as a result of something happening in your life or something becoming more clear. So I wanted to just add that many of us may experience that, some element of feeling triggered, but ultimately to empower us to move in a specific direction. So now let's go ahead and jump into all of the rising and sun signs. All right, so first we have Aries rising. This Libra solar eclipse is happening in your 7th house of relationships. So for many of my Aries sun or rising, you guys are going to be having probably some realizations about other people in your life, relationships, or even aspects of the self that you are working on developing. The 7th house tends to be, along with the 12th, some of the least integrated aspects of our chart. These are parts of ourselves that we don't know as well. And so during this eclipse cycle, you are coming more into terms with your own energy as well as Libra energy, which has a lot to do with feeling like you are considering many sides, feeling like you are very diplomatic, where you are kind of slow to anger and slow to commit to a certain way of thinking or doing things, where you are considering very much all the parties involved and putting relationships first in some respects. So you may be finding yourself in scenarios where you need to embody more of this energy in your life because of the nature of this eclipse. You might also find that stuff comes up in your relationships that could be a little bit triggering because Mercury is with this eclipse and opposite Chiron. So you may have some difficult conversations or some things that you have to consider when it comes to your relationships and how that impacts you on a more personal level. This could also have to do with finances because of the quincunx to Uranus in the 2nd house. This particular area might be just something going on in the background in terms of your own sense of self-worth or your own confidence in yourself, or just your financial matters in general are kind of going on in the background and adding maybe extra stress or extra stimulation to your mind and to your life that could inadvertently affect the energy of your relationships and the commentary that you have with people, the conversations. It's not necessarily something that is, again, directly about that. So you're maybe not necessarily talking about money per se, but I do feel like that is going on at the same time and may, again, affect the emotional experience that you're having around this period of time. This is a new moon. It's a solar eclipse. So there's something about your relationships that you're needing to become clearer about. And I'm definitely seeing that because the second card, I pulled the 7 of Cups. So some of you guys may just feel like you are kind of in a state of maybe like dreaminess or feeling like you have lots of options or confusion and a lack of clarity around how to move forward with something. The 7 of Cups tends to be very lovey-dovey, romantic, but it's also not very certain about the level of commitment that is there long term. And this is something that we're really trying to assess in our lives, because Venus, the ruler of this eclipse, is in Virgo. It's in an earth sign. It's very grounded, very practical, very data and fact oriented. And it's opposite Saturn. So Venus in the 6th, opposite Saturn in the 12th. So it's very much concerned with the element of time and practicality, and, how much energy do I have to put towards this? So if you are confused at all about the state of a relationship, then this can come up. This can also indicate that people in your life are confused about the relationship with you, or about their relationship, and it's just talking about someone that's really significant to you. But there's something going on with people in your life where there's a need to figure out where they land. How close are we supposed to be? How invested are we supposed to be? And one of the things that I feel like you guys are really good at, since this is your first card, the Queen of Wands, is being very confident in yourself. You are Aries, the North Node is in your sign. This is a time of bolstering the self, increasing the self-confidence, increasing your ability to trust your own gut and your instinct to make decisions. And I feel like you guys you're naturally like this. It doesn't mean that you're always going to be like this, because it depends on the wounds of your chart and things that have happened in your life, but you have a natural quality to be committed to yourself and what you want, and knowing what you want and being confident in that and shining your light in that. So you have this energy naturally. Whether or not it feels very active for you is another question, but there may be sometimes some elements of your life, and this could have to do with other people, that bring up some wavering in that self. And again, this is you maybe sometimes needing to get used to with this eclipse, or embody, or deal with Libra energy, which is considering maybe that you weren't right, or there are other perspectives, or there's another possibility for things. Or maybe you normally are really straightforward and you know exactly what you want, but with certain people or certain situation in your life, maybe you don't have that full clarity. And so this is, again, a time to explore the energy of possibilities and then gain clarity through that. And ultimately, you are coming into a phase of life with the 10 of Pentacles where you are stepping up a lot more in your groundedness, in your stability, especially financially, or within terms of commitment. So really feeling like, okay, no, I need something that is going to make sense for me in 5 years from now. And this 10 of Pentacles very much has that energy of a family, of buying a house, of committing to each other, getting married, saving up together. It's I really feel like over the next 6 months, if there's been wavering energy, if there's been kind of this oh, I'm just going to think about the possibilities, I don't really know, then over the next 6 months, that's going to harden and become a lot more concrete and a lot more certain about where you stand with someone or a situation. And there could be financial reward or stability in one's life as a result of concretizing that. But first, you have to go through the uncertainty, the wavering, and get a little bit used to that Libra energy. And then ultimately you can lead yourself into a much more stable place. But it can bring up insecurities when you're in that wavering state at times, especially if somebody says something to you, or if you have some thought pop up into your head about something happening. It can kind of gnaw away a little bit at the sense of self and the confidence in yourself because of this Chiron opposing the eclipse. But your ruler, Mars, is in Scorpio, and it's trining Saturn in the 12th. So, Mars is in your 8th house. So you guys are doing this kind of deep dive. And some of you guys might feel really protective with this Panther card of the things that you really want, or of yourself, or of your partner, or of your resources. But I'm getting this very defensive, protective energy with the Panther card, and Mars being in Scorpio in the 8th house. However, this is also very positive with this trine to Saturn to purge and release things in your life, whether that's, difficult emotions or insecurities or things that have come up in this wavering phase with this trine to Saturn and this Panther card, I feel like you're able to confront those things head on, and that protectiveness can be used, that strength of the protectiveness can be used to journey within and ask yourself, like, where is this coming from? What do I really need to release? And I think you'll be stepping up more into your own essence and realizing just how powerful you are and just how unique you are, especially in your career, because this eclipse is squaring Pluto in the 10th. So there's something about your life direction, your career, your goals that are going to be transforming as a result of your relationship with others and this eclipse, and how these things unfold and whether you're committing to something or not. This could even be talking about working with others. It doesn't have to be an intimate relationship at all. It could be more of a work relationship with client relationships. But there's something where I feel like you are coming more into a solid sense of self and of your uniqueness as a result of this kind of wavering experience. And that is going to help transform your career. I think you're going to gain more clarity on where you're headed or what your goals are, again, as a result of these experiences. The last card that I have for you guys is Virgo. It says methods for healing the power of, the analyzing of, or resulting from the perfectionism of. So you guys could be in this Virgo energy where you are analyzing and trying to refine and perfect things in your life, in your relationship, in your career, in your finances. And I think that this is going to get you far. And obviously, you don't want to be overly critical, which can sometimes happen with Saturn opposite Venus. But ultimately, I think it's serving a very strong purpose in your life to kind of pick things over with a fine-tooth comb and ask yourself, if that's something that you really want. Is this still aligned with me? Is this relationship still working for me? Is this way of my finances still working? All those things are really going to serve you, especially as this eclipse unfolds for the next 6 months. So that's what I'm seeing for your Aries. If this resonates, I would love to hear in the comments down below how it resonates for you. And if you want any readings from me, you can always check me out at willowsboom.com. And I hope you give this a thumbs up, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a great day. Bye. All right, up next we have Taurus rising and sun. This Libra eclipse is happening in your 6th house. And Mercury is along with this eclipse, and Chiron is opposite Mercury in your 12th house. So I feel like you guys are coming into some type of awakening right now, especially with the opposition from Chiron to Mercury. Maybe there is some kind of calling or wake-up call or something that jolts you a little bit to have, again, some type of realization. And this eclipse might feel especially unsettling for you just because of the fact that eclipses have intense energy, and the ruler of this eclipse, Venus, is opposite Saturn, and also Venus is your planetary ruler. So you've kind of been probably feeling the last few days just a little bit more heaviness or hard work or less clients or just not as much support financially or emotionally. And also this eclipse is quincunxing Uranus in your 1st house. So you could feel also quite restless and wanting to change things or progress things, but feeling like maybe you don't know how that is going to happen, or, what exactly you need to do, or maybe you need to make an important decision, especially within, the 6th house topics, which is, of course, our health, our routines, our workplace, our relationships with our colleagues. Those areas can become something that we start to question. Like, what are my current responsibilities? What are my current routines? What's my current workout? What's my current health like? And do I need to make a decision here that will help me move things forward, will help me also feel more balanced? And the 6th house does typically have this very strong feeling of working a lot and not really like making a lot of progress, or not really feeling like we're getting what we want in terms of money or support when we're putting in this effort. And so this eclipse could also have you kind of check in with yourself if there are ways in which you just haven't been feeling as like bright and shiny and adored and all those things in your area of efforts. So let's say, you could feel like you're putting all this effort to clean let's say you're a mom, a stay-at-home mom, and you're putting all this effort to clean the house and make sure that you look nice and go to the gym and take care of your kids. And maybe you just feel like you're underappreciated, or like your partner isn't noticing, or like you, at the end of the day, don't actually have enough time for yourself. There's something in the way that we live our day-to-day lives that is a little imbalanced for you especially. And there needs to be quite a few changes for you guys over the course of, this year, because Uranus in your first house, I mean, it's going to be there for more than just this year, but Uranus in your first house is very much kind of pushing you to ask yourself, like, what do I need to do differently? How do I need to shake things up? And Taurus, you guys can get a little bit like stuck in a cycle. Like you can get more, it's harder for you guys to shift what you're doing and adapt. You guys kind of like get momentum and then you keep going. But there's something about this where I feel like you're undervalued, underappreciated, working too hard, or not working enough, or there's something in your way you're showing up day to day that is just not fully balanced and needs more awareness around. And this eclipse can bring that awareness. That's for sure. With this Judgment card, you need to make an important decision. You need to see things through new eyes. You need to awaken to things that you could have been doing on autopilot or in this kind of slumber. And this eclipse is squaring Pluto in the 9th house. So it could also ultimately affect the direction of your life, or how you even kind of the lens through which you even view life, or how much you are able to grow as a person by being able to make these changes. But that doesn't mean it's going to be easy. It does typically involve some level of self-confidence, self-control, self-mastery. And the King of Wands is a great example of this. This is the second card. This is somebody who is very much skilled at something, who's very passionate at something, very good at something, but they also know how to delegate. They are also a leader that can inspire people to do things for them and to create more of that balance, so it's not all falling on your shoulders. So if there have been things in your life that you've taken on a lot of responsibility for, or you've been kind of like stuck in any kind of imbalance within your work or within your routines, this King of Wands wants you to become more of a leader of your life, to think also more long-term, because Venus is in the 5th house, opposite Saturn in the 11th. We need to think more long-term with how we're taking care of ourselves and with how we're managing our work. And the King of Wands also wants us to be a lot more like confident in who we are and what we're offering, so that we don't feel like we need to do so much, or that we don't feel like we need to overextend ourselves at certain periods of time. And I feel like some of you guys with this raccoon card, let me actually look this raccoon card up, because I have a feeling that I should do that. Talented, shadowy, and hiding. Raccoon energy is at play within all artists to greater or lesser degrees. It indicates talent, tenacity, and skillfulness with a particular musical instrument or creative tool. The shadow side points to unresolved issue around self-image and success. Sometimes a stage name or wearing a mask works in an artist's favor. Other times it limits creativity. Am I who my audience thinks I am? What if I'm ready to grow into something more? Raccoon energy won't let us off the hook until this creative ego fear is resolved. So to bring this into balance, it says to make new work. So again, I feel like there's something that you guys are needing to do in your work right now that may feel like it helps you feel more balanced and inspired and beautiful in your life. So that could look like, fixing existing issues within your current workplace or within your current responsibility and creating more balance and delegating. That could look like having an idea of something new that you're going to bring to the table, and like some new, creative project that you want to try. But there is like bringing a zest back into this area of your life, as well as balance. And I think that's super important. If you have been kind of on a hamster wheel, like doing the same types of things, this is really trying to get you to shake things up, and do things differently in a way that is, again, going to feel more balanced and more beautiful, which is a very Libra kind of topic. I also pulled the Ace of Swords for you guys. So this has to do with new ideas. So again, I definitely feel like you guys are going to be having lots of new ideas about how to go about this at the time of this eclipse. And ultimately, you may also have important conversations because Mercury is involved in this eclipse, and the Ace of Swords could be talking about that, where you need to talk to certain people about changing things at the workplace, or delegating, or having someone help you out with things to create more of that balance. Mars at the time is also in Scorpio, in your 7th house, trining Saturn in the 11th house. So really thinking about relationships and how that fits into your long-term goals is also significant here. So the 6th house is very cooperative and collaborative, as well as a Libra eclipse. So we're very much not in this on our own. There are other people involved in this. Even though this is an Aries North Node season, we are supposed to be driven by the self and by our own desires, but we can't achieve everything on our own. So thinking about the right people to have in your corner and how to utilize them, and how to have this kind of collaborative, cohesive type of relationship is really helpful. And just, again, asking yourself if your current dynamics with people make sense within the workplace or within your responsibilities, and if things need to be shared or spread a little bit or changed a little bit to become more fair, to become more easygoing, to become more sustainable long-term, and not leading to burnout, or not feeling like you are not being recognized in the ways that you deserve, or feeling like you're not getting to do the things that you enjoy. So calling on others to be that support system is really key here. So Taurus, that is what I'm seeing for you. If this resonates, please let me know by commenting down below. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. If you want a reading from me, check me out at willowsboom.com. I'll link that down below. And I love you guys. Bye. All right, up next we have Gemini, rising and sun. This Libra solar eclipse is happening in your 5th house, along with Mercury, your planetary ruler. Mercury is also directly opposite Chiron in the 11th house, and it may feel a little bit more of a stressful time within relationships as a result of Mercury opposite Chiron. The 5th and 11th house axis is quite social, and so again, it may really have to deal with important relationships in your life, although it doesn't have to be talking about that. So one of the reasons I say that in particular is because I pulled the 10 of Cups in reverse, which can have to deal with a disconnect that's happening maybe with somebody around you, or a need to check in and reevaluate your values and how that makes sense for your relationships. Maybe your current way of moving through relationships, or things that you're valuing in your partnership or your friendships, need to be called into question. Maybe some of them, maybe there can be some difficult conversations or realizations as a result of this eclipse in the 5th house. The beautiful part about this eclipse is that it's also a new beginning. So even though there may be some patterns ending in how you've kind of valued certain things in your relationships, I also think it's trying to get you more in touch with your unique gifts. What is it that you truly have to offer? What is it that makes you an individual, that makes you express, that makes you feel excited to wake up every day and work on something that feels like an extension of you, or a hobby or an artistic endeavor that feels like an extension of you? So if you have something like that going on, this eclipse is going to draw it out even more, or bring something entirely new into this area of your life. So over this next 6 months, you could be developing different hobbies and interests and things that do feel like it's part of your gifts coming to life. One of the other elements of this eclipse, I'm getting so much around like pentacles and productivity. So I do feel like this is a work-centered eclipse as well. And as I mentioned, the 5th house is the house of our gifts, but it's also the house of our joy and of our children. So if you have children, or if you have some type of business that is really aligned with your joy, you might find that there is an increased need for responsibility in this area of your life. And that doesn't mean that it's unpleasant because this is a Libra eclipse. So it's trying to bring beauty, it's trying to bring balance and harmony, and for us to experience the full extent of that joy. But it's almost like we need to carefully consider our long-term and our dedication to what we're doing, because of Mercury being opposite Chiron in the 11th. The 11th house in particular has to do with our hopes and our wishes and our dreams, and it has us think years down the line. And so I think that there's something really important here where we are meant to absorb and fully enjoy the present moment and the joys with our children or with our businesses or with these hobbies, or even dating life, for example. But we're also meant to be like working on improving that area of our lives, or putting more effort, or putting more consistency, or feeling more effective, feeling more, I think feeling more productive, like this card says. So if you have kind of felt like you've been a little bit off balance with the Knight of Pentacles and the productivity card, this is really time to, again, bring balance and joy into the process of what you are creating, of what you are developing or investing in, whether that's, again, a relationship, a romantic partnership, a hobby, a business. There's something about this where I feel like we are meant to be aligning more with our values and filling up our cups more emotionally, feeling more connected, because we might have been a little disconnected from it, or we might have been a little misaligned and like unconscious in some areas. So we're aligning that. We're starting to work more or become more consistent in the way that we show up to that area of our lives. And also leaving old patterns. There could be, with Venus in the 4th house in Virgo opposite Saturn the 10th, there could be some kind of need to end something, because Venus is the ruler of this eclipse, and Saturn being opposite Saturn, which is all about endings, is calling us to kind of examine our values and priorities and end things that maybe didn't align with that. And I really see that with the 8 of Cups. So, and also with this lizard card, which has a lot to do with like shedding. If there is some element that of your current, 5th house eclipse topics that I already mentioned, if there's some element of these areas of your life that you have been misaligned, or you've been investing into the wrong areas, or you've been scattered, or you haven't been honoring things that are like really actually priorities, or you haven't been fully connected and engaged with the things that you're doing on a deeper level, then this eclipse is saying, let's get clear, work hard on the things that are truly mattering to us, and then shed extra like superfluous layers. Like the lizard sheds its outer skin because he doesn't need that skin. It becomes an extra burden if he carries it with him. So I'm trying to don't know if I want to go into examples, because the 5th house gets there's so many options for the 5th house. But let's say just in general that you are, you've been, kind of investing in something that brings you a lot of joy, a relationship, a hobby, a career, a dating life. It brings you a lot of joy, but you've also been looking at other people in your dating life, or you have also been kind of spreading yourself too thin as a parent and not spending enough quality time. Maybe you're trying to get your kids to be really productive and doing all these after school things. Or let's say that you have maybe just considered too many options in your career if you have a business, or, if there's anything like that, it's time to start to question the excess and walk away from it. Especially if it doesn't just really, really, really fill you up and align with you. And that level of focus will make you much more productive and will attract more luck into your life. And with this eclipse squaring Pluto in the 8th house, it can bring up quite a bit of our own fears when we're trying to cut some of these things away. We might feel like, well, if I do that, if I don't invest energy into that, then I'm going to, then X, Y, and Z is going to happen. I'm going to lose this thing, or I'm not going to have enough, or, I'm not good enough if I don't do all these things at once, or whatever that is exactly. But we're having to confront the loss and the release of something, and that can trigger wounds within us. That can trigger our own insecurities and our desire for control, our desire to have things our way, and even if they're actually not serving us. And so this eclipse is super important to get disciplined. With Mars in your 6th house in Scorpio, trining Saturn the 10th, getting disciplined around like what your day looks like, how you're managing your time, how you're managing your energy, and how that weaves in and fulfills your long-term goals is super important. And if there's excessive things, if there's things distracting you, scattering your energy, if there's things that don't feel like they are fulfilling for you, then it's time to end those things. And you may even have the potential to start something new as well that brings you joy. But in order to do that, you probably have to also kind of cut out some older things. And I see that with this Page of Pentacles preceded by the 8 of Cups. It's like once you walk away from something, then you're able to start something else. But it's kind of like you're trying to buy more clothes when your closet is already totally full. And there's something about creating space in your life for something to come in. And I think that you have the potential for things that, again, could be a lot more connected to you on the soul level, and to your gifts and to your joy, or the approach that could be much more connected. But you have to be willing to leave your current approach or leave your current avenue or current situation in order to do that. So anyway, I felt like that was extremely abstract. So I hope that still resonates with you guys. If so, I'd love to hear your comments down below about how that applies to your life. If you want a reading from me, you can always check me out at willowsbloom.com, which I'll link in the description box down below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends, and have a great day. Bye. All right, up next we have Cancer, rising, and sun. This Libra eclipse is happening in your 4th house. And anytime an eclipse happens in the fellow cardinal signs, or aka in your 4th, 10th, 1st, or 7th house, it is going to be a more significant eclipse. So you're probably going to be feeling this one a little bit more. And especially in the 4th house, it is a very sensitive house. So there could be stuff that kind of draws up from underneath the surface of your previous awareness and becomes clear and helps guide you around your next steps in life. This eclipse is conjunct Mercury, and Mercury is also opposite Chiron in your 10th house. So there is an emphasis on having certain realizations, conversations, and things come to you that help you awaken to more of your purpose and where you are headed in life. And that's something that I think is really, really important. But you may have to have difficult conversations or realizations in order to come to that purpose. So this eclipse in particular, it's pretty powerful, and it does involve some need to leave things behind, because it's a Libra eclipse with the South Node, and it's also squaring Pluto in your 7th house. So there is definitely a double emphasis here on leaving certain things behind in terms of relationships. If you have had issues with codependency, that could come up. If you have had issues just with people in general in your life, and have had kind of relationship patterns that are draining you, or have not felt like an even give and take and receive, that is going to definitely come up right now for you to have clarity, have important conversations, so that that doesn't continue on. Because I feel like you guys are supposed to be reaching for more right now. I feel like you guys are supposed to be growing in your purpose, but if you're having these kind of tangential and distracting relationship situations, or you have people taking from you, or if things are just imbalanced in your dynamics with others, then you're going to become just weighed down by that and held back by that in some respects. And as this is an eclipse in your 4th house, it's really important for you guys to feel like you have a lot of security and emotional stability in the connections that you are creating, as well as in the directions that you're moving towards. So if you have, for example, been wanting to buy a home to feel more grounded and stable, this eclipse could bring that. But of course, it's a South Node eclipse, so you're going to have to leave something behind in order to have that venture or that adventure. If you want to feel more secure in your finances, this could look like saving or creating more balance within your money. So having more of that balance with how much you spend versus save. And that doesn't mean that you have the same ratio, but a balance in a way that you are still going to spend, but you also feel like your future needs are met. And I pulled the Six of Pentacles, which is a very generous card, and it does have to do with that equality and feeling like you can give back, but also still receive. So I definitely feel like there is a need to have that balance here, either in your relationships or with your money, or with really anything in your life. Especially related to your home or your family. So maybe some of you have had certain relationships with your family members that have felt sort of off balance, or that have felt like they've taken from you too much, or like they don't, do enough for you. If that is resonating with you, then there is definitely a need here to create more balance in those relationships by having maybe difficult conversations about things that have happened in the past and about your expectations moving forward. Venus is in Virgo in your third house opposite Saturn in the ninth. So there could be some difficult decisions and conversations that need to be had, especially with this Ace of Swords card. So it's like you're gaining this mental clarity about who and what can carry with you in the future. And if there are certain patterns and things in relationships, especially with family members, or especially with money, or your sense of stability that is not an equal give and receive, is not fair, is not just, is not balanced, then you're going to have the realization or the decision or the conversation about that. And some of you need to stand in your confidence a little bit. With this King of Wands and the stimulation card, I'm definitely getting the feeling that some of you guys could have a little bit of conflict right now. The stimulation and the wands, these are fire energies. These are energies that are just a little bit more conflict oriented and aggressive. And it doesn't have to be anything too crazy, but Mars is squaring your Pluto in the seventh house. So this does kind of bring up a little bit of a need to feel like we are in control. Sometimes that's because there are situations in which people challenge us that make us feel like we need to be in control. So there could be events or people or things happening that are pushing back on you in some way, and you're needing to kind of stand on your throne and be confident and be open, but holding your sense of self without letting that other person like, we don't want it to be too much Libra energy. So if in the past you would have been super understanding and like just give them the benefit of the doubt, or kind of acquiesce to somebody else's point of view, then this is really not the time to do that. It's very important to be diplomatic. This is the King of Wands. This is somebody who is in control of their emotions and their fire. So it's important to be diplomatic and balance out and view things from all sides, but not to waver, not to let somebody else bulldoze you if there is a difficult conversation or decision that needs to be had. So that is one of the primary messages there. The stimulation card, I think, is just going to indicate that you guys, again, might be kind of riled up, and it's time to get to use that energy for more of an excitement around like where you're going in life and what you want to do in life and your passions in life. And the kind of negative element of that could be that maybe other people are somehow burdening you and not helping you on that path. And then some of that passion and that energy can get turned against them. So just being kind of aware of what you're saying and making sure that you mean what you say is super important. I did pull also the Deer and the Bear card, and these have such different energies that, again, I think you're needing to bring into balance. The Deer is very passive. The Deer is very much looking out for the rest of the herd. And this is the Libra energy that you guys are coming into, or that you're balancing. But then we also have the Bear, and the Bear is very much concerned with safety. The Bear is concerned with making sure it has enough food for the winter, for its hibernation. It wants to have layers and layers of protection. It wants to be strong and fierce. And it's not it doesn't want to be provoked, but if it's provoked, it will attack. So there's a need to kind of balance these two energies out. You need self-preservation, you need security, you need to think about yourself long-term. And so if you're provoked and someone gets in the way of that goal, you can attack, but you also have to be gentle in other moments where you are considering other people, where you are coming at them through maybe a more innocent or forgiving lens. So it's not just like the spiciness all the time. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Cancer. I think that's everything that I wanted to say. If that resonates, I would really love to hear about your experience down below. Don't forget to also give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and share with your friends. And if you want a reading from me, you can check me out at willowsboom.com, which I will link down in the description box below. And I hope you have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, up next we have Leo rising and sun. This Libra eclipse is happening in your 3rd house, along with Mercury there, and opposite Chiron in the 9th house. So for you guys, there may be a little bit of a need to have some difficult conversations or decisions in regards to your in regards to anything really, because the 3rd house can be any kind of conversation. So that is a layer of this eclipse, but also the 3rd house has a lot to do with our kind of like busyness. And I am getting the feeling with you guys, based off of the cards I was pulling, that there may need to be this check-in point around where you are spending your time, how you are managing your energy, because the 3rd house, again, can be super, super busy, either in our mind and like a little bit of anxiety or overthinking things, or in our hobbies, or in projects and things that we're trying to complete, or errands that we're trying to run. It can have a little bit of this kind of scattered energy. This eclipse is about bringing balance. So that might mean making difficult decisions or having difficult conversations to bring balance to either the mind or the activity levels that we do. So I think you guys are going to come into a place where you are becoming very self-disciplined. And I say that with the Chariot in reverse. The areas in which you have felt like you've lacked direction, I feel like you are coming into more clarity around that direction, or at the very least simplifying things a little bit in your life in order to not be so scattered and pulled into different areas. But the interesting thing is, like, I see this eclipse having us end something but also start something. So I feel like, you know, you're ending this cycle of maybe having all of these different ideas with the Chariot in reverse and the World card after. You're kind of completing that cycle of like having lots and lots of new ideas and wanting to do this and wanting to do that, wanting to do this, and coming into more of like, maybe you're completing the projects, or maybe you are deciding like you don't want to do this and you're going to focus here instead. But it feels like you are thinking more about your finances. And that is going to help you kind of know like where to actually put the energy. Because again, you might be scattering yourself into different projects or even different ways to spend money or spend time that may go against your financial goals. And with Venus in the 2nd house opposite Saturn in the 8th, I think you might have some realizations about your money and about your work with this abundance and this B card around kind of where I'm supposed to put my energy. Because if I'm having these particular financial goals, I don't want to just scatter myself and spread myself too thin. I want to have the activities and the busyness be directed towards something meaningful for me. And I want my mind also to be directed towards something more balanced and healthy and meaningful for me. And so that could indicate that there will be some changes in the kind of work that you're doing, especially because this eclipse is squaring Pluto in the 6th. Maybe it changes your routine. Maybe it changes kind of like, again, the projects that you're engaged in, or even the job that you have, but it's trying to alter the way that you're spending your time and how that affects your money goals. And I think ultimately this will bring you a lot of long-term security, but initially it could bring a little bit of anxiety. There is a need to work hard, but it is very important about what in your life you're working hard on. And if it's not something that feels like it's adding beauty and harmony and balance into your life, to invest in that thing, if it's something that spreads you more thin or scatters you more, then maybe it's not the priority. So a reprioritization here so that ultimately you can have a life that is more balanced and beautiful and engaging. You also have Mars in Scorpio in the 4th house, trining Saturn in your 8th house. So again, focusing on stability here is really key. And in order to focus on stability, we have to understand where there are insecurities or where there are holes in our plan, which is Saturn in the 8th house. We might be driven by lack and making certain decisions that are not best for our long-term interests. We might have debt that we have to pay off that aren't helping our long-term interests. We might be taking some risks in ways that we don't need to be taking risks. And this is trying to help us act a little bit more conservatively in terms of our financial future and really plan and think ahead so that we can make sure that the things that we're taking action on, the things that we're saving for, again, are all really aligned with us as individuals. And again, Mars is squaring Pluto in the 6th. So that means that you may have to change the way that you're doing things. That means that you might have to change how much you work or where you work or your style of work or your schedule or something in order to make that space or align more with your financial goals that you're really trying to achieve here. Or even if it's not financial, it's something to do with maybe resources or at the very least your own self and pursuing things that really interest you and developing certain skills within yourself. It's like if you really want that to be a priority and still be secure on your path to doing that, what do you need to change in terms of your daily activity to match that? What kind of restless energy do you need to bring into balance, or scattered energy that you need to direct and become more focused? So that's essentially what I'm seeing for you. I feel like that was kind of fast. So let me pull another card. Let me pull an animal advice card. So advice. We have the gazelle. Yeah, the gazelle is very like fearful and aware. So the Saturn in the 8th can bring up again quite a bit of like fear and insecurities and pains and these things that we're trying to avoid. So if you are like very busy, I feel like the advice is to go within, especially with Mars and Scorpio in your 4th house, go within and ask yourself why you are making certain decisions, why you are so busy, why you are spreading your energy in that way, because there could be something at the root of that that is more psychological, that is more fear-based, or trying to avoid something. And ultimately, I feel like you have a lot of inspiration and whatnot, but that might feel exciting, that might feel stimulating to act on, and you might not be aware how there are also ways in which we keep ourselves really busy to avoid feeling certain things. So it's not to say that like having these new ideas and having all this inspiration isn't good. It's just if it's coming from a place of running from certain things in your life, then that's not good. So sometimes fire signs can be like, you know, really inspired by things and really on the up and up. But sometimes it's important to be more grounded and balanced and know, you know, why you're doing certain things. Anyway, I feel like I'm kind of rambling about that, but I hope that this makes sense for you guys. And I would really love to hear down below in the comments if it resonates with you, or if you have any other layers or interpretations you would like to add to this eclipse for people. Don't forget to also subscribe and give me a thumbs up and share with your friends. And if you want a reading from me, you can check me out at lilsboom.com. And I hope that you guys have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, up next we have Virgo, rising, and sun. This Libra eclipse is happening in your 2nd house along with your ruler, Mercury. And unfortunately, Mercury is opposite Chiron in the 8th house, which can make this a more sensitive time. It can produce quite a bit of anxiety. An eclipse in the 2nd house is trying to get us to get our money situation together, as well as our values and our sense of self-worth. And it's trying to improve and bring balance and peace and beauty and harmony into these areas of our lives. But we may have to deal with some things that disrupt that, or that bring anxiousness, or that make us feel a lack or insecurity or not enough with this opposition with Chiron in the 8th house. So ultimately, This could be a maybe more emotional time, but it's trying to bring greater stability. And because it's an eclipse with a South Node, we are needing to let something go or leave something behind. So there could be old ways of managing money, old ways of viewing the self, old ideas of what we value that no longer really work for us anymore as we're moving forward. And we have to be able to release those, and things that we may have used to stay within our comfort zone, or that we use to comfort ourselves and be stable, but that ultimately were maybe short-term things or things that actually added disharmony into our lives. So for example, if you were shopping to make yourself feel better, or eating food to make yourself feel better, or whatever that is, you'll start to notice that this period of time, those things become really disruptive, and we're becoming much more aware of our patterns and trying to come into greater alignment. The planetary ruler of this moon is in your first house. It's in Virgo. And that is really great in the sense that it is helping develop more of your character and who you are. So the more that you are kind of getting all of these things in your life in order and are starting to develop your own value systems and your own new way of making or managing money, or maybe you buy a house, or there's something that you're doing to increase your value and to increase your stability in your life. And that is really going to add to your character, but it's also opposing Saturn in the 7th. So there is a little bit of this feeling of other people kind of standing in the way, or other people somehow being an obstacle or something that you need to overcome to become this newer version of yourself, or this more stable, abundant, valuable version of yourself. And I really see that with this 7 of Wands and the 3 of Pentacles in reverse. The 7 of Wands has a lot to do with tall poppy syndrome, and can have to deal with people kind of coming at you when you're leveling up in your life. But it can also just mean that you have to kind of defend yourself. And with the 3 of Pentacles, this is defending yourself from people who don't get it, people who are misaligned, people who are just bringing maybe the chaotic energy to the table, or who just have different paths and they are not fully on your own path. And so it's almost like I have to defend who I am, I have to defend what I value, and I have to remain in alignment. And with this Stingray card, we have to keep our spine about us. We have to keep our sense of self, our erectness, and not kind of give in or fold because somebody else says something. So this means having a backbone. This means standing up for ourselves. This means setting certain boundaries with people, making decisions that honor us, even if they mean changing certain things about our relationships, or even ending certain relationships in order for self-preservation to occur. And so ultimately, I think that this is going to be a pretty emotional time, because I did pull a bunch of cards associated with emotion. I got the Knight of Cups, Page of Cups, Queen of Cups. So definitely a lot going on here in terms of emotional energy and processing things. And I think that they will be bringing stuff up from the past with this memory card, and with Chiron opposite Mercury, there is usually some element of the past coming up. So something that feels like a wound that you've had before can revisit at this time in our relationships, or just in our own minds, or in our conversations. Something can be pushed on or triggered that, again, has been there for a while, that isn't new. And because it's not new, we can be very emotional, and we can just have a harder time with that. But because this is an eclipse that helps us let things go, I think it's going to help us process a lot of that, so that we can again come into greater autonomy and independence and self-assuredness and strength on our own accord. So if there are ways in which relationships have brought us down or challenged us in some ways and brought up things from the past, it is fortifying us in terms of ourself for the future. So it's breaking things down a little bit. It's making maybe us insecure for a moment or questioning something, but ultimately to strengthen us and give us more hope about a new kind of relationship that we can have, a new way of showing up as ourselves as well. So it's not like you just get a new relationship, it's you having to up level to find the right people who maybe are more of an emotional and energetic match for you. And I think especially emotional, because of all these cup cards coming in. But with the Knight of Cups and the Page of Cups, and the Queen of Cups, this is definitely an indication that there can just be a new emotional beginning available for you, especially in terms of friendships, of relationships, of anyone significant in your life. And I think that that's, again, very much available for you, but it comes after being in your own emotional equilibrium. It comes after healing has occurred. These eclipses take 6 months to unfold. And the Queen of Cups is intuitive and strong, but yet also soft and gentle and compassionate. And she is very much in control of her emotions, but she also moves with them. And so there is something about this that I think you are coming into greater connection with the self that is going to stabilize you and help you attract greater people into your life. And there may be things that come up right now to show you what you don't want or what isn't going well and how you need to transform that in your dynamics with others. Right now you have Mars and Scorpio in the 3rd house trining Saturn in the 7th. So having important conversations about your boundaries and about what you will and won't tolerate, as well as why you feel a certain way, is going to be very important for relationships. And this eclipse is squaring Pluto in the 5th. So if there has been a tendency to be much more in the moment with your relationships or with your money or with anything in your life really, and if you've been more pleasure seeking or like more for instant gratification or just kind of going with the flow, the square to Pluto in the 5th is trying to say that maybe there's something more, that there's something deeper, maybe there's something more aligned, and maybe what you've been, the low-hanging fruit that you've been reaching for is actually not your highest truth, or actually isn't the best possible expression of yourself. So this can really ask, like, how are you expressing yourself in relationships? And is this the most authentic, the most beautiful kind of relationship that you can have? Or is it low-hanging fruit? Is it instant gratification? Are you looking to distract yourself? Are you looking to waste money on things that you don't need? And it's really trying to help you come more into stability. And part of that is by asking yourself what the long-term consequences of things are when it comes to money and relationships. So that's what I'm seeing for you, Virgo. Let me pull, I guess, one more card for you. One astrology card. Let's just see if anything comes out. Oh, too many. Okay, I got the Moon, defend, accept, let your feelings tell you how. So this, with all these cups cards, is definitely saying let your gut, your intuition, and your emotions guide you. If you're trying to preserve something, if you're trying to hold on to something that you shouldn't be holding on to because this is a South Node eclipse, this is going to be very strongly indicated by feeling emotionally volatile, by feeling like you're just not yourself, by feeling like you are wanting to gravitate towards that instant gratification, and you're going to be aware of, you know, what's really happening underneath the surface through your emotions. We also have Aries energy. So energies to meet the challenge, your desires resulting from honesty and strength. So this is a time to be selfish and in your own power, not aggressive, which I don't think many Virgos are that aggressive, but the Aries energy just wants you to really embrace your independence and confront things head on. Be honest about things if you need to be honest about them, even if it's a difficult conversation or decision, but relying on the self and knowing that you are going to be fine, even if it initially takes a toll. The last one is Mercury, the awareness of, many thoughts about, and many words. So definitely think there's going to be conversations or decisions being made that may be somewhat triggering, again, with Mercury opposite Chiron. But ultimately, you guys have everything it takes to get to the other side of this and be stronger and more stable as a result, and a lot more emotionally resilient with this Queen of Cups. Ending your reading. So if you guys enjoy this, if it resonates, please comment down below. I love to read the comments, and I always want to make sure that it's landing for you guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. And if you want a reading from me, you can check me out at willisboom.com, which I'll also link in the description box down below. And I hope you have a great day. Bye. All right, up next we have Libra rising and sun. This eclipse is happening in your first house with Mercury next to it. And Mercury is also opposite Chiron in your seventh house. So I feel like this is going to be a really big one for you guys because, of course, it's an eclipse in your first house. And anytime that happens, it's really opening us up to a new way of living, a new identity. It's teaching us more about ourselves, our personality, and maybe even the way that we treat our body, because the first house has a lot to do with our physical health and our vitality. So this eclipse could open you up to new ways of navigating your health, also of navigating your relationships and just your life in general. And because it's an eclipse with the South Node, there is some kind of process of needing to let something go. And that's because we can't make way for these newer versions of ourselves, these new renditions, if we don't also cut other things out of the picture, if we don't stop the old behaviors. And that is a very important part of this eclipse, where we are really getting rid of old relationship patterns, especially ones that were really probably more Libra in nature, which can have a lot to do with being very codependent or putting harmony before the self, and sometimes neglecting the self in certain ways. And then the North Node is in Aries. It's about boundaries. It's about independence. It's about assertiveness. And if a relationship doesn't add to your life, if it detracts from those factors, that independence and that confidence and your self-worth, then those things are really going to come up now in order to be stopped. And this eclipse is also squaring Pluto in the fourth house. So this could very much have to deal with very long-standing emotional patterns that run through your family line as well. So it could be very helpful to look back at your family and ask yourself, are there things that kind of went on growing up or within the relationships with my parents, or even in my ancestry farther back, where there was maybe certain themes? Like, was there people that rescued another person, or, was there imbalances in relationships? And how can we bring greater balance and harmony to my life, and then also my connections? This eclipse is also about getting off of the fence with something. So if you have kind of been, wavering in between two sides and needing to figure out what you want to do with something and your level of commitment to something, this eclipse is going to kind of push you over the edge and have you have clarity about what it is that you need to do. And I feel like we're coming into a phase of kind of overcoming maybe where we felt some type of lack, because Saturn is opposing Venus in this eclipse. And Venus is the ruler of this eclipse. Venus is also your planetary ruler, and it's moving through your 12th house right now. So there may be something that could have felt like difficult. It could have felt mentally difficult. It could have felt like confronting in some ways, or you could have had some kind of loss or, a need to release something. So this energy can be a little bit challenging. And I think ultimately it's trying to help us see this kind of duality in life, because this eclipse, while it may be uncomfortable in some ways by taking certain things out of our life, it also is going to be helpful in others, because it's going to add in, it's a new moon, it's going to add in things to replace it that are much better. And I'm really seeing that here with the cards as well. I got the duality card, which of course speaks to two different kinds of experiences, the light and the dark. And we can see that also with the Scorpion and Firefly. There is a difficult experience that the Scorpion may go through. And Mars is actually in Scorpio. Mars is the ruler of the North Node. So there could be something that has felt emotionally triggering for you, that could have felt like it brought up your defenses, or is just making you very aware of maybe resentments that you've held on to, or feelings that have kind of gone underneath the surface that haven't fully bubbled up. And I think that has to do with the square to Pluto in the fourth. Like, some of these things have probably been brewing for a while. And this Scorpion card is really talking about the shadows and addressing them and addressing those feelings, and kind of laying out the patterns in front of you and saying, I don't want this anymore. I want something different. And the Firefly card is about bringing the light from within, having clarity about who you are, what you want, where you're going, but also feeling like hopeful and optimistic, and feeling like I can have those things. So even if I have to confront some difficult experiences along the way, I can also still have the things that I'm looking for, because I have so much to offer as a person. And so I think many of us are going to start to see where we have things to celebrate and where we have things that have been challenging. With the two cards that I pulled, Five of Pentacles and Four of Wands, the first card is a card of union and celebration and harmony and coming together with the people that we love. And I really feel like you guys are leveling up a lot of ways in life, especially over the next 6 months. I think you will find maybe new passion projects or things, expanding at work or coming into more of an understanding of yourself, things that are something to celebrate. But then with the Five of Pentacles, there's also the energy of there is an awareness of where there is lack as well. And that's what the South Node going through your sign can do. It can really show you if you have invested into things that maybe are not worth your while, maybe are not meeting certain needs, or feel lackluster in some type of way. And so I feel like there's this really stark contrast here, which is interesting because Libra has a lot to do with contrast and the black and the white. And I think that duality is coming in here, where we're going to have some really beautiful things coming in and then some things that are lacking in some type of way. But ultimately, that's just showing you what you are meant to transcend, meant to kind of let go of, especially with Venus in the 12th. There's something that you're kind of needing to release. And once that happens over these next 6 months, you have a lot of time and energy and space to draw in something more aligned. With Mars in their second house and Scorpio trining Saturn in the 6th, this could also pertain to something work related or financial related, or at the very least could be related to your own confidence and your own sense of self-worth. And so this area of your life, it wants you to kind of try to move for more. Like with this 10 of Cups, I really feel like there is something that can be extremely fulfilling for you on an emotional level and can feel like it's 10 out of 10 made for you. But then after that, I have the Two of Pentacles in reverse, which is talking about needing to reprioritize things in our life. And then I also have the Sun in reverse, which is talking about either feeling down or feeling overly optimistic. So there's something in our lives where we may have been kind of yo-yoing about it, or maybe some of us have felt like we're looking at it through really rose-colored glasses, or the opposite, where we're feeling quite pessimistic about it. But something in regards to something that we're dealing with, and it could be work or financial related or relationships. But these areas of your life, there's something going on where, again, you could have been looking at it through either lens, or maybe even swinging back and forth between the two. And there's a need for this area of your life to have maybe more of an objective, discerning eye, with Venus being in the sign of Virgo, and to kind of bring that clarity and that reality check that the opposition with Saturn does, and asks us, is this really the right priorities? Is this really how things should be in this area of my life? Am I pursuing this and valuing this in the way that I should be? Or is there something else that I should be, valuing and prioritizing instead? And I see this Nine of Wands. So there could be something in your life where you feel like it's kind of like testing your faith. It's testing your persistence and your resilience and your courage. And I think for some of you, it might indicate that that area of your life is just going to go through some kind of transformation, and maybe you don't have to necessarily change the circumstance, but maybe it's something that you change your attitude towards it, or the way that you are in the situation. And then maybe others of you, there will be a loss happening, or letting go and moving away from something. I think it's going to be different for everyone, but ultimately, this experience of having something be kind of tested in a way, whether it's a relationship or your finances or your work, having some kind of test and pressure put on yourself in that area is going to show you where the priorities need to change, what needs to give, what patterns need to break in order for you to have this 10 of Cups of real happiness in the end of it all. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Libra. I hope that resonates. If it does, I would love to hear your comments down below. And if you want a reading from me, check me out at willowsbloom.com, which I'll link in the description box below. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share with your friends, and have a great day. Bye. All right, up next we have Scorpio rising in Sun. This Libra solar eclipse is happening in your 12th house with Mercury, and Mercury is also opposite Chiron in your 6th house. So this one might feel kind of intense for you guys because eclipses already generate a lot of energy. And then on top of that, you are having Mars in your sign in the first house, generating even more energy. And so this could feel like a very interesting time. Because this is in the 12th house, it does have a little bit more of a propensity towards needing to close out or end a cycle. It is a new moon as well, which indicates that there needs to be some kind of new beginning in maybe this more spiritual or creative or energetic side of your life. But because with the South Node, something has to end. And likely with this being in the 12th house, something that has been driven by parts of the self that are maybe undermining who you are, or who have things that are just unconscious driving the decisions. So if there are patterns in your life that have been unconsciously repeating itself and that might undermine you or self-sabotage you, this is becoming aware of some of those things and stopping that, and instead transmuting the energy into something more helpful and more healing, like a spiritual practice, like a helpful project, a goal, or anything else in your life that could feel like a positive outlet for that same energy. So this eclipse is making in opposition to Chiron in the 6th. So again, this really could bring up a lot in regards to mental health. If you have felt a little bit, the word that came to my mind was unhinged, but I don't really mean that. But maybe that's for someone out there. If you felt unhinged, or if you have felt like really cloudy or just unstable and like very confused about things in your life, I can see that with this Ace of Swords in reverse. And I think that can sometimes have an effect on our sense of balance and routine. We might feel confused about where we're putting our time and energy. We might feel like our mental health is sometimes up and down because we don't really know like where we're headed or where we're going, especially if there is something in regards to another party or something going on in your life that involves 3 people or working together with something or a job. There could be like some cloudiness or confusion or issues with conversations, like things not being certain or things not being decided or again clear within the workplace or within group environments, or something with significant people in your life. There's just, it seems like there's confusion and and just things that are going on that might feel like they're really hard to fully digest with this Peacock card. This Peacock can stomach kind of rocks and things that are harder in life and still move on and still feel like it's beautiful and it's bright and it's vibrant. And I do feel like that you guys have that energy as Scorpios. You're very adaptive. You're very regenerative. And so I definitely feel like whatever you're going through right now is you're going to come out of it stronger. That's for sure. But again, I just feel like there's something really unclear about the way that you're putting energy into something. And you could, because of that lack of clarity, you could be driven by your unconscious, and it could be actually hurting you. Just because the 12th house has to do with self-undoing, and there is ways in which this eclipse with the South Node is asking us to stop patterns. And for you guys, it could be relational patterns because it is Libra and that has a lot to do with relationship, or it could just be anything else that is throwing your life out of balance. Like if you are pursuing one thing really intensely and ignoring the whole, for example, and ignoring your other needs, or if you are, repeating certain issues in relationships and you're not aware of what's driving you to those circumstances. I think a lot of those things could become obvious right now. And ultimately, with this eclipse squaring Pluto in the 3rd house, it is going to take a change in your mindset. And it may also take you confronting things and seeing things clearly in ways that you haven't wanted to see them clearly in the past, or having conversations that could feel confrontational in ways that you haven't wanted to confront them in the past. And especially with Mars in your 1st house squaring this Pluto in the 3rd, this is a very confrontational energy, and it doesn't allow us to sleep without nightmares. It doesn't allow us to ignore the situation without energetic repercussions, and is going to bubble up to the surface for you to fully address these things. And so this is going to be very important for you to think about what it is that you truly want. With Mars in your first house trining Saturn the fifth, what is it that you truly, truly want out of life, or with this person, or in terms of your, way of spending energy? What actually brings you the most joy? What would actually make sense for your life? What is a responsible decision, but also in alignment with your character and with your energy? And I feel like you guys may have felt confused or indecisive about stuff in your life, and it could have been, again, kind of leading to this self-undoing in some ways by just ignoring it or just by putting it off. And now it's time to fully address it. And I really see that with this High Priestess in reverse. I think that you guys have in some cases been ignoring your intuition when it comes to a particular thing. And this could be work related with the Eight of Pentacles here, or it could just be something that you have spent a lot of time putting energy into it, or some kind of skill that you've been developing. You could have been keeping yourself really busy, kind of working in school, or working at a job, or, working out in the yard. There's just something where I feel like you maybe needed time to be alone and reflect. And with this High Priestess in reverse, there could be some message that has been trying to come through to you that maybe you just haven't been able to hear because the energy's been going elsewhere. Or it could be that you're confused and needing to receive a message about some particular investment of time, like a job. So it's time to listen. It's time to get clear. With Venus in your 11th house, opposite Saturn the 5th, thinking about long-term happiness and short-term happiness together, your gifts, and also the way that you can impact the world together, and just your general life direction and how people fit into that. These are really important questions right now, and they deserve a lot of attention and spaciousness to be figured out. And I pulled this fertility card. So let me actually read what that says there, because I'm curious. It says, the nurture of elements around you is highlighted, and watermelon energy shows that you will reap what you have sown. The wisdom of nature is at the forefront, and answers, discoveries, and inspiration will be found there for you. Plan well, stick with things, and look after those around you. Challenges may be failure to connect with others and inauthenticity. So maybe some of you guys needed to hear a message like that, but it's definitely telling you that you are going to be able to reap the benefits if you decide something, if you commit to something, and you are clear about how that benefits you long term and aligns with you as a person. And if you decide to actually commit to it and put in the effort and dedication, it will pay off for you, even though you may have some fears come up, some anxiety, especially with the square to Pluto, come up around this decision or around gaining clarity or trusting your gut. Even though it could bring those things up, ultimately within the next 6 months, you will get something positive happening from this, some healing, some renewal that will lead you to a fertile environment for what it is that you're actually really looking for. So that's what I'm seeing for you, Scorpio. I would love to hear if it resonates. Please comment down below if it does. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. And if you want a reading from me, check me out at willsboom.com, which I will link in the description box. And I hope you have a great day. Bye. All right, and next we have Sagittarius, rising, and sun. This eclipse in Libra is happening in your 11th house. It is a solar eclipse, which means it's a new moon, and it's with the South Node and conjunct Mercury, and Mercury's opposite Chiron. So a new moon is all about new beginnings, but because it's with the South Node, there is something that we need to let go of. And with Mercury here, we're having lots of realizations. Mercury is the planet of our mindset, of communication, of decision making. And with it being opposite Chiron in the 5th house, there's definitely some type of maybe painful realization or conversation or something that needs healing within our mindset to come to a certain conclusion that we have maybe been on the fence about. This is all about bringing balance and restoring balance and harmony into our life and into our relationships, getting rid of old relationship patterns. And if we've been, again, on the fence about something, deciding to commit to it and get really clear on what we want and what we need moving forward. Being in the 11th house, this has a lot to do with your friendships as well as your life plans and your goals. So if this area has felt like there has been either lack, stagnation, or if you have felt confused, or if you've been on the fence about what you want to do, or if you've been spreading yourself too thin and kind of having lots of different goals or lots of different plans, or not even fully committing to friendships and things that you actually really want in your life. Maybe you don't feel like you have that sense of community that you want and you're needing that. Well, this eclipse is all about a new beginning here. So you can reset your hopes and plans for the future. You can reset your sense of belonging and create those beautiful friendships for yourself, but you're going to have to stop something in order to do that. You're going to have to reassess some values in your life. And I really think that there's strong messages coming through in your cards around self-love. So there could be something in regards to your relationship with yourself that's a little bit amiss lately that can also be translating into some kind of stagnation in the area of connections or goals as a result of your relationship with yourself. Another message with the Lovers in reverse is some type of imbalance and a misalignment of values. And that's something that I really feel like is a strong message for everyone. Libra is ruled by Venus, which has to do with our value systems. So all of us are coming in greater balance into our lives through realigning our values and priorities. And this is something that we did back in August with the Venus retrograde. And I think that energy is continuing now in a little bit of a different way pertaining to goals and relationships for you. So there's something about this area of your life that I feel like has not been totally aligned with the way that you're needing to live your life. It has been imbalanced. So maybe you've been working too much and you haven't been prioritizing connection, or maybe you've been prioritizing connection with the wrong people, or whatever that is. You know what your life looks like. I can't possibly name all the examples, but there's something in this future-oriented area of your life that is amiss, that has been either excessive or in drought. And with this World card, I see this coming into a completion. I see whatever kind of energetic cycles you've been going through is finally ending, and I feel like you're coming out successful. So if you have been really feeling, especially through dreams with this divination card, if you've been having like really strong intuition, gut feelings, or messages through your dreams about some new goal in your life, or some important aspiration to achieve, or some friendships or community or connections or other kinds of relationships coming into your life. If you've been having that come to you intuitively as an area of focus, or that something's going to come up for you, I feel like this is basically saying that that is what's going to happen, that you are going, like those feelings that you have are going to come true, and you are going to have something pop up in your life that aligns with what you're actually looking for. But you really do need to examine the way that you're spending your time and your priorities and your values and any imbalances in these areas in order to make sure that you have the spaciousness for this to actually come into your life. And if there are some friends that are just not good friends, or if there are some things that you've been kind of trying to achieve that are making you too scattered, you're going to have to bring in the clarity of the decision making of maybe some of these things have to go, especially because the ruler of the North Node in Aries, which is Mars, is in your 12th house. So there's something typically when we have, the Mars in the 12th house like this, there's something that we might have to cut away. And with this squaring Pluto in the second, this could definitely bring up issues around your own self-confidence, your own feeling of safety or survival, and it could bring up issues around money. So maybe you don't want to cut away some responsibilities that you have because you're worried about money, or maybe you want to, launch your business to a huge audience because you feel like if you niche down, you would, narrow out the people and you wouldn't have as much money. Or maybe you feel like if you cut out a certain friend that you're going to be lonely, or whatever this is. There's something that we have to release, to face, to let go of, that can trigger up those kind of survival instincts within us that can bring about a little bit of fear and self-protection. But with Mars trining Saturn in the 4th house, we have to think about what makes us feel emotionally stable and secure. And if a relationship doesn't, if a job doesn't add to that, if it feels overwhelming, if it feels like we are prone to burnout, if we feel like we're giving way more than we're receiving and we're not nourished, if it doesn't feel stable and strong for ourselves, then it's like that thing's got to go. This eclipse is ruled by Venus, which is in your 10th house in Virgo, opposite Saturn in the 4th. So there's definitely a concentration on here on things in the external world versus things in your internal or family life. And these two areas can come up when we're having questions about kind of where you're going in life. What is the balance here? How much do I want to put my energy into my home versus my family? Do I want to still have the same values or priorities? Do I want to mix up my, time with friends versus time with family, or time at work versus time at home? These are big questions that can come up. And I think it's important to think about both and how we can balance both in a way that will suit where we are in our life. And that is something that only you know what the answer is to that. I also pulled the Ace of Cups in reverse, as well as the Knight of Swords in reverse. The Knight of Swords, I'm going to talk about this first, is a restless, impulsive, unfocused energy that can lead to burnout. And with the Ace of Cups preceding it, there are things that are intuitively speaking to us about the situation, that are trying to tell us to listen to ourselves about how things need to change. And also, there could be things that we are pushing down or repressing about our goals, or about what we're working on, or about how busy we are. And it's important with the Ace of Cups in reverse to be mindful of repressed emotions, to be mindful if you are so busy that you're not actually addressing how you feel about something, or you're not slowing down enough to see that maybe something does need to shift in our way of living, or shift in our priorities for us to actually feel like we have the energy for ourselves, or to feel like we are actually aligned with our values. Because sometimes we can get so busy that we realize when it's too late that the way that we were living wasn't actually in our best interest, or wasn't actually right for us. And with this regeneration card, I think it's just saying you really have the opportunity right now to decide how you want to live instead. You have the opportunity to feel like you have more energy, that you have more passion for life, more zest for life, by reimagining how you want it to look in terms of your time management, in terms of your energy management, your priorities, your values, and where you're going to be at and what you're going to be doing at certain times of the day. You can regenerate yourself, and I feel like become more hopeful, become more optimistic, become more lighthearted with this Firefly card as a result of making these changes, even if that does trigger some survival instincts and money-related fears as a result of making some of these changes. So this is what I'm seeing for you, Sagittarius. I would love to hear your thoughts, and if it resonates, down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share with your friends. And if you want a reading from me, check me out at willowsbloom.com, which I link in the description box down below. And I hope you have a great day. Bye. All right, up next we have Capricorn rising and sun. This Libra eclipse is happening for you guys in your 10th house of career. And this is an eclipse with the South Node. And that indicates a couple of things. First of all, because it's a new moon, it is still a beginning, which can unfold over the next 6 months. But because it also involves the South Node, there is some element of needing to leave something behind, to change the way that we're doing something, to just go about it differently. With Libra in particular, this is about bringing things into balance, and that could indicate that we need to change certain things about our relationships and how that moves forward with us. This could also have to deal with our goals, and how maybe there are certain elements of our goals that are not aligning, or could be very much prone to a little bit of burnout energy, especially with the 10 of Wands card. I feel like you guys may have a little bit of this kind of exhaustion coming through your work, or having a little bit of scattered energy. And so ultimately, I feel like there's something here where your career, your work life can be a little bit softer, can be a little bit more balanced and feminine and beautiful and harmonious. And not to say that there's not elements of that already there, but there's just something here in terms of your goals where I feel like things might feel hard. And I think they feel hard because of the way that Venus is at this point in time. Venus is the ruler of this eclipse, and it's falling in your 9th house in Virgo. So it's quite discerning and critical. But then with Saturn opposite it in the 3rd house, there's something here that is a little bit like negative thinking, a little bit small-minded. So you're having this kind of juxtaposition of Venus in the 9th house, which is wanting you to really think long-term. And Saturn wants that too, but Saturn being in the 3rd house can also get really worried about what's happening right in front of it. The 3rd house is quite reactive. So there's this juxtaposition of the bigger picture versus what's right here, right now, and how that can come into play in terms of your goals, and how that can feel heavy at times as you're stuck in between having to deal with what's right in front of you, but also wanting to reach for more and not really knowing how to balance all of this. And this eclipse is really trying to help us get past any indecision and commit to some way of doing things, commit to some kind of decision that we might have been uncertain about. We might have been considering so many options or so many different perspectives that it's been hard to clarify exactly what we're wanting. With this eclipse squaring your Pluto in the first house right now, it is asking you to transform as a person. So it is hard because you're having to adjust the style of who you are. You're having to adjust certain aspects of how you see yourself or how you live your life, even how you physically are in the world and kind of how you show up in order to make room for this new beginning that's trying to happen in your goals, in your career, in your future. And that can meet some resistance, that's for sure. You guys can kind of been going through this because the nodes have been squaring Pluto for a little while. So this is not something totally new, but these eclipses generate a lot of energy around that. And it's saying, how do you come up with a more balanced, way of viewing the future and goals for the future, and also change and adapt yourself to fit what that's going to look like, to fit who you're becoming or to fit who you need to be for this. So these are all important things to consider. So I definitely feel like with this 10 of Wands in reverse, this energy of kind of trying to do it all, there is something about your goals where you maybe need to get more aligned with where you want to go, because you might just take on a lot. And this could be driven with the shark card underneath it by deeper emotions. And examining those emotions will help you understand what it is that you actually need and want to prioritize to have greater balance, and especially to have balance between what's happening now and where you're trying to go. That is something that is kind of hard to navigate sometimes. And I think we can get into survival instincts with the shark card, or deep insecurities and fears and emotions that drive us to certain decisions that are more reactionary, that are not best for our long-term interest. Saturn does carry a heavy weight being in the third house. So just being mindful of that, I think, can help you a lot. Really asking yourself, like, why am I doing this, can help you a lot. I also think that you guys may be going through some kind of conflict right now. And the reason I'm saying that is because I pulled this 5 of Swords, and this doesn't have to be a conflict with somebody else, although I do kind of feel like with the stimulation card, there is something getting you fired up, and this could be on an internal level and resulting in anxiety, or this could be in conflict with somebody else. And the 5 of Swords in reverse really has this energy of, feeling quite angry, but or frustrated or anxious, but then wanting that to end, wanting to resolve it, wanting to kind of reconcile things or leave your resentment in the past. So I'm seeing this feistiness with the stimulation card, but with the 5 of Swords in reverse, followed by the 6 of Wands, I feel like there's something that you want to bring to light, that you want to address, especially with Mercury opposite Chiron in the 4th house. This could be related to family. It's like you want to address something from your past and just let the bygones be bygones, because I do feel like there's kind of some frustration and resentment there with the stimulation card. And I feel like you guys just are wanting to be over it. And there might be some relationship with your goals and your future and how hard you work and all these things that are actually related to things from way deep in your past that could be helpful to process and let go of. We also have Mars in the 11th house in Scorpio, trining Saturn in the 3rd. So having important conversations could be helpful right now, especially with people that you consider friends or people who you feel like can help you with a different perspective or can help you up-level your life because they have something that you don't have. Those conversations can be really, really helpful. You might also find that thinking long-term can be very helpful for you, and making plans today and acting in the present moment with those long-term things in mind aligned. But again, this is Mars is squaring Pluto in the first. So it is going to be somewhat challenging to assimilate this into your personality, to make the necessary changes to actually see some of these things through. I think you could at times have deeper emotions come out or feel defensive of the things that you really want or the way that you've been doing things. And I think it's just important to have a little bit more of this kind of stoic perception of things with the King of Swords and the Justice card, really seeing things from a very balanced perspective, an objective, fact-based perspective, looking at the amount of time and energy you have, what actually makes sense logically, and then bringing in the emotions. Because I think ultimately, you know, it's important to dream, it's important to imagine and to fantasize and to want to have these things and pursue these things in our life. But if we are not bringing our logic on board first and we're getting swept up into it, then we can sometimes take on too much, or we can become misaligned or scattered or not fully in awareness of why we're doing certain things and where it's actually leading us. So that is my message for you, Capricorn. If this resonates, I would love to hear down below in the comments. If you want a reading from me, check me out at willowsbloom.com, which I will link in the description box down below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends, and have a great day. Bye. All right, up next we have Aquarius, rising and sun. This Libra eclipse is happening in your 9th house. It is a solar eclipse, which means it's a new moon. So the sun and moon are both in Libra, and it's a time for new beginnings and a seed to be planted in this area of your life. However, this is an eclipse with the South Node, which also indicates a need to release, to let go of some kind of pattern, especially associated with Libra topics, which for many of us, it's releasing things in our life that have felt chaotic or that have felt like they have pulled us in many directions or have led to some kind of imbalance in our lives. It also has to deal with releasing relationship patterns and any other kind of thing that has left us feeling like out of touch with ourselves, out of alignment with ourselves. And it's a time to really get straight on our priorities, our values, and to recommit to something in our life, or maybe let something go so that we can feel more vibrant, more whole. And as an eclipse in the 9th house, this has a lot to do with the way that you see life, where you're headed in life, your ability to make meaning out of things in life and have beliefs. And this area is trying to transform. So the lens through which you view life is trying to change, and it's trying to help put you on a new adventure and try something new to grow as a person. And that could look like meeting new people, traveling, learning new things, trying, again, something new that will help you soar to new heights. And I pulled this eagle card. So there does feel something where you're reaching for more, but also where you're able to have a bigger perspective as you look down. So that's super important here, to have this bird's eye view of your life. And then also I have the ironic card after this, which is the earthworm, just complete opposite of being inside of the earth versus high above the earth and viewing it from a big lens. So I really feel like you're needing to do both. And that is something that we can see here through this contrast of Mercury, conjunct this eclipse in the 9th, opposite Chiron in the 3rd. There's something I think very basic about your current instincts and about the way that you're thinking about life that is really trying to just be concerned with self-preservation. With this Mercury in the 3rd house, I feel like it can sometimes be prone to getting a little bit like, packed under the dirt. Like you can feel sometimes like there isn't this broad perspective of what's happening. You can really get tunnel vision and focus in on maybe the things that are not going well, or the things that you can't have, or like not seeing the opportunities, not seeing the bigger picture, not seeing the meaning why, but getting really stuck in the current version of reality. That's Chiron in the 3rd house. And then opposite Mercury in the 9th, it's trying to expand you. It's trying to get you to try new things, see things from a different perspective so that you see the potentials all around you and why things happen the way that they do. And this could feel challenging. You can feel like you're kind of like limboing between the two. And eventually I think you will come to a consensus between them. But I think sometimes you're going to have to face your own fears or your own illusions or your own worries that you might sometimes hide from yourself, or that you might use to feel confused and not move forward, but there's just like pent up emotions essentially that can make you not able to fully see clearly. And I think that a big part of this eclipse is trying to release that, especially because the ruler of this eclipse, Venus, is in your 8th house. And that does tend to trigger a lot of emotions, a lot of sensitivities, a lot of insecurities and fears and all those things. And that is what kind of keeps us trapped in the small viewpoint, because our emotional reactions to things are building inside, but maybe don't have the proper release, and maybe don't have the healthy tools and the outlet to fully express and move on from something and then be able to return to higher meaning. Instead, we can get trapped and kind of sucked into a vacuum and feel like we're stuck. And Venus opposite Saturn in the 2nd is kind of a description of that, where we can get stuck in these really survival instinct, primal energies, fear-based energies, and kind of be worried for ourselves and our future. And it can really eat away at our sense of self-confidence. And those kinds of mindsets can really mess with you. And ultimately, I feel like you're trying to bring balance to this, where you are honoring that part of you that does have these reactions and does have fears and does need to deal with things head on that are right here, right now. But then also being able to access that higher meaning, access the, spiritual reasons for things, and see the full context of things, see the bigger picture. So I really feel like you're trying to balance these, and that's what's ultimately going to happen. But this eclipse squaring Pluto in the 12th, it might bring up unconscious fears and things that we kind of hold on to for a sense of control, because if we don't view it from that way, if we don't try to protect ourselves, if we're just more accepting, if we're just trusting, that can feel sometimes threatening, that can feel like it's too much release, too much surrender. And so that can sometimes get triggered. This kind of primal instinctual self-protective mechanism can come into play. And I really feel like that square to Pluto can do that. But I feel like you guys are going to be coming into a place in your life where you're going to envision new things for your future. You're going to have new opportunities coming your way, especially with this affection card, which talks about that in particular. In the Knight of Swords, I feel like there is something coming to you with the Knight of Swords, like a new idea, a new proposition, something that you can act on, something that you can invest your energy and your time into. And something is going to help you kind of get out of this, lockstep that you might be in with your current way of thinking. And I think it's going to help you focus on what is possible by having something new come through. And I think that makes sense with Mars, the ruler of this North Node, being in your 10th house of career and goals, trining Saturn the 2nd. It's going to help you lay that stability. It's going to help you take action on maybe your finances or work or something where you can channel that energy and feel like you're producing, feel like you're growing, and that you have something to look forward to. This is also Mars is also squaring Pluto in the 12th. So again, there's still part of you that maybe does kind of have to confront the self and maybe self-sabotaging behaviors or your own fears, your own survival instincts as you're moving towards these things. And so that's just something to be aware of. And especially with this Two of Pentacles, just being aware of if you're ever acting from a place where you are imbalanced. The Two of Pentacles needs to bring in balance. It needs to bring in priorities and organizing things and valuing things according to what is true for that person. And so if there are actions that you're taking that that don't align with that, then the Mars square Pluto can show that. It can show where there could be self-sabotage. It can show where there could be imbalance, excess, things just not maybe overworking or being overcommitted to something. Sometimes Mars square Pluto can show where we're like really trying to hold on to things. So that's another thing to be aware of, like where you, again, are not bringing balance into the equation, where you might be just gripping onto something for dear life. So that is the message that I have for you guys. Let me pull one advice card just because I felt like you guys might need it. Advice for Aquarius. Okay, we have the Weaver card. So it says, Weaver of potential, new beginnings, intuitive intellect, contemplative phase, emotional fulfillment, walking in alignment. That's what this whole eclipse is about. It's about aligning ourselves. Lavender is much like the medicine of spider, a master communicator that organizes, refines, and systematizes many elements in life. Lavender's medicine provides us the power of discipline and focused energy. Exactly, that's what I was just saying. Key elements to enable aligned manifestation. A spider is here to remind you that when you're not communicating from higher alignment, we quickly become entangled, overly critical, or block the flow of creativity and healing communication. Connect to the energy of the spiral to journey deep into your shadows and allow this organizing system to facilitate higher alignment to your foundation when needed. Use the gifts of communication, such as music, poetry, art, and dance, to nurture creativity as you weave your life. Wow, that felt super aligned. So I hope that was helpful for you guys. If so, please comment down below how this resonates. And if you want a reading from me, check me out at willowsbloom.com. I love you guys so much. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, and last but never least, we have Pisces rising and sun. This Libra solar eclipse is happening in your 8th house, conjunct Mercury, which is also opposite Chiron and your 2nd. So I definitely feel like there's 2 strong messages coming through for you guys, but I wanted to start off by saying that this might feel like a sensitizing eclipse. Ultimately, being in the 8th house, it does kind of draw out some of our own fears and insecurities. It can draw out power struggles. It can bring up manipulation. It can bring up issues with finances and debt. And all these things can make us nervous. It can make us feel like we're in a crisis sometimes. But because it's a new moon, a solar eclipse, we're given the opportunity to create more balance in this area of our life. So the area that could have felt emotionally sensitive or uncertain or insecure or going through something in our lives can now become a lot more healed and balanced and receptive. And this particular eclipse is in Libra, which is very much related to our relationships. And I do feel like that's what this one is about. For you guys especially, I think the insecurities that are coming out are because of people in your life. And I say that because Venus, the ruler of this eclipse, is in your 7th house and it's opposite Saturn in your 1st. So it's definitely drawing out the issues within relationships. And with Saturn in the 1st house, you're really working on building yourself up a lot right now. And sometimes when Venus is in the 7th and it opposes Saturn in the 1st, your desire for connection, your desire for relationships can sometimes feel like it is a hindrance for you in your own development, or it could feel just heavy at times, or it could bring up the feeling of lack where you feel like, okay, I'm working on this, but I still don't feel good enough. And this relationship is drawing that out in me where I feel like I'm still developing this part of myself. And because this eclipse is also opposite Chiron the 2nd, I'm just seeing a lot here around our own self-worth coming into the equation, and also issues around money as well, if those things are tied together for you. So a lot of emotions are drawn out during this period of time, but ultimately so we can find, again, more balance and overcome certain relationship patterns and things that could be happening that are not healthy for us, that are really leading to imbalances in relationships. For example, codependency, or feeling like we are in relationships that are not fully serving and meeting our needs, or feeling like there are moments of being detached, and whatever that is. I'm not even going to go into that, but I think you guys understand that there's something in our relationships that are not quite where they should be, and they could be really coming to a head at this time. And with the Knight of Pentacles in reverse, King of Pentacles in reverse, we do have a little bit of this kind of like stubborn energy. This can have to deal with poor financial decisions as well. So this could indicate the Chiron in the 2nd house. There could be something in regards to money that's drawing out insecurity, but it could be in just any other area related to the 2nd house in regards to our own self-worth and our solidness and our sense of self. That could feel like it is that could just feel like there's a little bit of sensitivity there, or issues in that particular area. What's interesting is when I actually originally pulled these cards, I had the idea that this could be talking about someone in your life as well. So there could be someone in your life that is maybe stubborn or unmoving in some area. And then with the Knight of Cups in reverse. This could also be talking about being jealous or unrealistic. So this could be talking about you or somebody else, or something that you're just experiencing in your relationship, where somebody feels jealous and maybe having an overactive imagination and being quite emotionally volatile as a result, which could be you guys because it's in your 8th house. But there's something where it's like a thought or something's, or it could be talking about their being stubborn, and that's causing in their desire for something, and that's causing you to have this feeling. So anyway, I'm seeing this shared across the relationship in some respect, and I really feel like there's a need to work on this here. First of all, with Scorpion and Stingray, you really need to hold your ground. With Scorpion, it's like I need to fight for myself in a way, and Mars is in Scorpio right now, and it wants us to defend ourselves, but Scorpion can also hold on to past resentments. It can hold on to things that actually really hurt itself. And so I think it's going to be really important for you to release, to forgive, to let things go. And that might be a lot easier said than done. Can we do that? Releasing things, forgiving things, let things go, but still have a backbone, but still hold our sense of self and not just kind of sway under other people's opinions, or because someone apologizes, we just get back with them when maybe we shouldn't, for example. So there's something here around let's protect ourselves, but also release things instead of it toxically building up within ourselves, and really processing emotions, because I think you're going to be in a reactive state. I think you're going to be in an emotional state. And with this desire card, this card in particular talks about needing to work on relationships. It says fulfillment can be found by working on your current relationships. Overcoming challenges is indicated, and new material gain and recovery are shown. So again, there's this whole message around something going on in your relationships that you need to work on. And that's very clear with this eclipse happening in your 8th house and Venus in the 7th, opposite Saturn the 1st. It's just a lot of pressure around relationships and how they can draw out these feelings of this moodiness, this jealousy, this insecurity. Jelliness, I said. Jealousy. That's what happens when I talk too fast. And this eclipse is also squaring Pluto in the 11th house. So this actually, there's something in regards to either your future goals or your friendships and community that are needing to be changed, or that are needing to be addressed if there's longstanding issues there. Something coming up to the surface here. And that could be also where there could feel volatile energy from. So let's say that, yeah, I'm just going to leave that there. I'm going to let you interpret that how you want. On top of this, Mars is in the 9th house, squaring Pluto in the 11th. So part of what we're believing right now is we're a little bit on guard with our beliefs. Mars being in the sign, we're kind of a little bit like self-protective. And with this square to Pluto in the 11th, if we feel like other people from our friendships or our community or just other kinds of relationships are a threat somehow, we can get a little bit like just holding our own, holding our stance, being very protective. But this is trining Saturn the 1st. So there's something about this experience where you're protecting yourself, where you're standing up for yourself, that Scorpion energy, that's super important. With Saturn moving through your 1st house and being super strong Pisces, you guys have a little bit of a tendency to be like wavy and to be so compassionate and so understanding. And Saturn is really trying to solidify you, is trying to say like, this is who I am, what I stand for, my expectations of myself and others. And Mars here trining Saturn is like, no, let's stand up for ourselves and form, protective beliefs if we need to, not hold on to things, but address things in the way that we need to, have this kind of morally right and wrong. And then that can then inform us as a person of like, no, this is what I actually believe. This is what is actually right and wrong. And it helps us stay like solid in our sense of self, even though it might be challenging in our relationships. That the true gift of this is being solid in the sense of self. And an eclipse in the 8th house is taking you through the shadows and the darks and the depth so that you can emerge so much more solid in your sense of self. Because if you can go through those experiences and be transformed by them, but not be broken by them, you become so much stronger in who you are. And so that's really what I'm seeing here as a main message for the eclipse. I am seeing a secondary message in regards to finances happening. which I feel like you guys are coming into a phase now where you're coming out of financial lack with the Five of Pentacles in reverse, Three of Wands upright. I think you're coming into a phase of more adventurousness in your life. So this could look like more financial freedom. That's kind of how I'm seeing this. So if you guys have had certain debts, I can see you paying that off because 8th house is a house of debt. If you've been feeling like you're drowning under your mortgage, or you have been sharing finances with somebody and you haven't been able to become financially independent, I'm seeing those things changing. I'm seeing you becoming financially free, to becoming more adventurous, being able to travel, being able to do things that you want to do, take certain risks with your business or with your life that will actually be good because of the way that your finances are right now, because of how things are going to become more stabilized. And this is a 6-month eclipse. The energy takes that long to unfold. So you might see some new beginnings in your finances right now, but I really feel like they're going to stabilize over these next 6 months. And with this B card, the harder that you work, the more that you put into something, even if it feels like a risk with the Three of Wands, or it feels like an adventure or something new, the B card is saying if you put the energy in, you will get the results. So work hard, be dedicated, take those risks, and improve your financial situation, because that is very much all supported for you energetically right now, especially if you have some kind of debt that you're really wanting to pay off. So that's what I'm seeing for you, Pisces. That felt like a very clear message, a very strong message. So I hope that resonates. If it does, I would really love to read your comments down below. They help my channel. They help me as an astrologer in my practice as well. If you want a reading, you can always book one from me in my description box down below, willowsbloom.com. And I hope you guys have a great day. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, share with your friends, and have a great day. Bye.